So, originally, I was planning on talking about one thing in this video, but while I was recording and building in this Minecraft world, I ended up thinking about something completely different. Over the past month, I've done a lot of self-reflection, and for some reason, this memory just kept finding its way back into my head. The more I thought about it, the more I realized there was probably a lesson in it that I wanted to share. Also, we're back in the same Minecraft world from the last video. It's actually kind of funny because I almost died while recording this, but you'll have to keep watching if you want to see what happened. And as always, if you have any suggestions for my Minecraft world, or any stories, confessions, or topics you'd like me to read and talk about on the channel, feel free to send them to the email below. But yeah, instead of talking about what I originally planned, I figured I'd talk about this. It's a story about my first real crush, my first relationship, and honestly, how being insecure can completely change the way you treat the people around you. So, let's get into it. Back when I was in middle school, I had my first real crush. I met her during my first year of middle school. I was having a hard time making friends, so I mostly hung around my cousin and his friend group. One day, he introduced me to everyone, and while most of them said hi, one person didn't. That was her. Everyone joked that she was just shy and didn't really talk much. But for some reason, that immediately caught my attention. At the time, my cousin was basically my role model. Anything he wanted to do, I wanted to do too. If he joined soccer, I joined soccer. If he wanted to be in band, I wanted to be in band. So naturally, I ended up joining band as well. The funny thing is that I didn't get placed in the same class as my cousin. Instead, I got placed in a class with her. And I was excited because I thought this was finally my chance to get to know her. Do you know what I did? Absolutely nothing. We spent an entire school year barely speaking. At one point, she sat only a few seats away from me, and neither of us said a word. Now, to be fair, I was painfully awkward back then. Talking to people made me uncomfortable, and because I avoided it so much, I never got any better at it, so a whole year went by without anything really happening. Then summer came. One day, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize, even though deep down, I kind of already knew who it was. You see, throughout that year, our friend group constantly joked about the two of us, middle school kids being middle school kids. So when I got that text, I was pretty excited. Turns out it was her. And looking back, I think she was probably my first real crush. Not because I knew her well. Honestly, I barely knew anything about her. But she was the first person who made me nervous in that weird middle school crush kind of way. She texted me something simple about band, and being the socially awkward genius that I was, I gave the shortest response possible. Looking back, I don't know how she didn't just end the conversation right there. Instead, she kept it going. And somehow, that turned into us texting every single day, literally every day. At first, it was random conversations, then inside jokes, then dumb emoji wars. I remember she sent a bunch of Santa emojis once, and I responded with trumpet emojis because she had originally played trumpet before switching instruments. Looking back, it was stupid, but at the time, it felt important. And the craziest part, we texted every single day, but we still wouldn't talk to each other in person. Not once. We had band together every day. We saw each other constantly, and yet if you watched us from the outside, you'd probably assume we hated each other. Whenever I got close to her, my brain just shut off. My heart would start racing, and I'd completely forget how to act like a normal human being. I remember passing by her in class, hearing her apologize after accidentally bumping into me. And somehow that made my entire week. Yeah, I was down bad. Eventually, we started dropping hints that we liked each other. The classic middle school stuff. And after years of texting, awkward eye contact, and avoiding each other in person, we finally ended up dating. Or at least that's what happened next. And honestly, that's where things started getting complicated. Now, if you're expecting me to tell you that we immediately became one of those happy middle school couples that walked around holding hands and talking all day, that's not what happened. In fact, if you looked at our relationship from the outside, you'd probably question whether we were even dating at all. Because even after we made it official, we still barely talked in person. I'm serious. We texted each other every single day. We'd spend hours talking about random things, sharing jokes, talking about school, and whatever else came to mind. But then we'd show up to school the next morning and act like strangers. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. I was terrified. Not of her. Not of being around her. I was terrified of messing things up. Back then, I thought every interaction had to be perfect. Every conversation had to go perfectly. Every word had to be the right word. And because I was so scared of doing something wrong, I ended up doing nothing at all. I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. Sometimes we're so afraid of failure that we never even give ourselves the opportunity to succeed. That's exactly what I did. I remember spending years texting this girl and somehow learning almost nothing about her, which sounds insane now that I say it out loud. I didn't know her favorite color. I didn't know what she wanted to do when she got older. I didn't know her biggest dreams. I didn't know what kind of future she imagined for herself. And looking back, that's kind of sad because I wasn't really focused on getting to know her. I was focused on the fact that I had a girlfriend. At that age, a lot of my friends were starting relationships, and I think part of me was scared I'd never experienced that. So when I finally did, I became attached to the idea of being in a relationship instead of appreciating the person I was actually with. And there's a huge difference between those two things. You can love the idea of having somebody, but that doesn't mean you truly know them. That doesn't mean you're appreciating them for who they are. At the time, I thought I was in love. Looking back, I don't think I really understood what love was. I think I was just scared of being alone. And honestly, I think a lot of people find themselves in that position. They aren't necessarily chasing a specific person, they're chasing the feeling of not being lonely anymore. And when you're chasing that feeling, you stop asking yourself important questions. Questions like, do I actually know this person? Do I genuinely enjoy who they are? Am I interested in their life, their goals, their passions? Or am I just happy that someone chose me? That's a question I wish I would have asked myself back then. Because while I thought everything was fine, the cracks were already there. The relationship looked healthy on the surface. We celebrated every month together. We wrote long messages to each other. We told each other how much we cared. But underneath all of that, there was one massive problem. I was too insecure to be myself. I was constantly worried that if I said the wrong thing, acted weird, or embarrassed myself, she'd leave. Which is funny, because she spent years proving that she wasn't going anywhere. Yet I still couldn't believe someone could actually like me for me. And because I couldn't believe that, I spent most of the relationship trying to be the version of myself I thought she wanted, instead of just being myself. And eventually that catches up to you. It always does, because sooner or later, every relationship reaches a point where pretending becomes exhausting. And when that happened for us, things started to change. What started as an innocent middle school crush slowly became something a lot more complicated. And unfortunately, that's where I started making mistakes that I still think about today. As time went on, things eventually started to feel more normal. When we got to high school, we finally started acting like an actual couple. We'd walk home together after school, spend time together, and for the first time, it felt like we were building a real relationship instead of just texting behind screens. And honestly, those were probably some of the happiest moments of my teenage years. But looking back, I think I was still carrying the same insecurity that had followed me since the beginning. I was constantly worried about losing her. I was constantly worried about saying the wrong thing. And because I never really learned how to deal with those insecurities, they eventually started affecting the relationship. Then the pandemic happened. Like a lot of people, we suddenly found ourselves stuck inside with way too much time to think. The relationship started getting stale. Small disagreements became arguments. Arguments became regular occurrences. Eventually, we reached a point where neither of us seemed happy anymore. One day, she told me that she didn't think the relationship was healthy and that we should break up. And honestly, she was right, so we did. I remember crying a lot that day, not just because I lost my first girlfriend, but because I had lost somebody who had been part of my life for years. She was the person I talked to every day, the person I shared everything with. And suddenly, that was gone. But after about a week, she came back and asked if we could try again. And this is where I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life, because deep down, I already knew something had changed. I knew I didn't feel the same way anymore. I knew I couldn't love her the way I once had, but instead of being honest, I gave an answer that wasn't really an answer. I left the door open. And because I left that door open, she stayed. Over time, she became more attached to me while I slowly became more distant. I told myself that we were just friends. I told myself that maybe the feelings would come back naturally. But if I'm being truthful, I think I already knew they wouldn't. I just didn't want to let go. Part of me was scared. Scared that if I let her go completely, I'd end up alone. And that's the part of the story I'm most ashamed of. Because instead of being honest with her, I treated her like a safety net, like someone I could keep around just in case. And nobody deserves that. Not her, not anyone. At the time, I didn't think of it that way. I convinced myself I wasn't doing anything wrong, but when I look back now, I realize that sometimes the worst thing you can do isn't being cruel. It's avoiding the truth because it's uncomfortable. Eventually, the reality caught up to us. One day I asked her what exactly we were, and it turned out that while I thought we were just friends, she thought we were still trying to fix our relationship. She thought we were working toward getting back together. I thought we were moving on. Neither of us was on the same page, and honestly, that misunderstanding was my fault. I hadn't been clear. I hadn't been honest. I had been too afraid of hurting her to tell her the truth. Ironically, that ended up hurting her even more. Not long after that, I started distancing myself completely. And even though I told myself it was for the best, I still regret how I handled it because I know I gave her hope. Hope that things could go back to the way they were. Hope that one day we'd be together again. And deep down, I knew that wasn't going to happen. The last time I really saw her was at homecoming. I remember seeing her there and realizing just how much pain I had caused. Not because I intended to, not because I was malicious, but because I was selfish. I was so focused on my own fears and insecurities that I never stopped to think about what she was going through. Eventually, we stopped talking altogether. The last message she sent me was one of the kindest messages I've ever received. There was no anger, no resentment, no attempt to make me feel guilty. She simply wished me happiness and hoped I accomplished everything I wanted in life. And honestly, I don't think I deserved that level of kindness. It's been years since then. I still think about her sometimes, not because I want her back, not because I think we should have ended up together, but because she taught me something important. She taught me that relationships aren't about finding someone to fill a void in your life. They're not about curing loneliness. They're not about proving that somebody likes you. They're about genuinely caring for another person. And I don't think I understood that back then. If I could go back and talk to that younger version of myself, I'd tell him to stop worrying so much, stop trying to be perfect, stop trying to be who you think other people want you to be, and most importantly, be honest, be honest. And with that, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you made it all the way to this point, thank you. Seriously. Whether you listened to the entire story, related to some part of it, or just had it playing while building something in Minecraft, I genuinely appreciate you spending a little bit of your day with me. I know this video was a little more personal than usual, but honestly, these are the kinds of conversations I've been having with myself lately. Looking back at old mistakes, trying to learn from them, and hopefully becoming a better person because of them. If this story resonated with you in any way, whether you've struggled with insecurity, had a relationship you learned from, or just connected with the message, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and shared the video with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you're new here and enjoy these kinds of laid back conversations, stories, confessions, and random thoughts, while I somehow try not to die in Minecraft, feel free to subscribe and stick around. As always, remember that you're loved, you're capable of growing, and it's never too late to become a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next one.